Good morning, everyone. I would like to formally welcome you to the first episode for our IADVideocast. Before we start, since this is the first episode, we're going to use this opportunity to kind of explain what the videocast is all about and why we're doing it. So basically, the videocast is a platform we're trying to use to give people a voice to kind of discuss all the ins and outs of things in Nigeria, and not just like celebrities or famous people, but also everyday people. Just discuss with them and see, just have their opinions and stuff. And the topics we're going to be discussing is going to range a very large spectrum of things in Nigeria. And because IAD is our main focus is community development through education, so we thought the best idea and the best way to start the video cast is by discussing education. So we have Ma'arouf here with us today, who has experience in that sector in education, and we think that he has some valuable information that he would like to share with us. So we have Ma'arouf on the floor today, and we're just going to be having a very casual conversation about education, what our opinion is about education, and how education can be improved. We're going to provide some stats as well, and just have fun with it and see how you can help. Also, another thing we'd like to say is we want people to ask us questions, like general questions about IAD, and also questions about the topic. So we're going to be giving you topics in advance because we would like to answer your questions. We would like to hear your opinions and stuff like that so that we can discuss. Now, before we start, yesterday, before we did the interview, I asked you to kind of send your information about yourself and things like that. So if you'd like to expand on that, like you said you're a media enthusiast, kind of like where you've worked, the sectors and all that. So you can start from that so that everybody kind of gets a better understanding of what you do.
No problem. First of all, it's an honor to have me here in the first episode. I must say it's an honor. Like you said, I'm Ma'arouf Ahmed Mahmood. I'm a media enthusiast. I've had interest in the media for a very long time, both radio, TV, all that new media. And I'm a child enthusiast as well. That's where the education part comes in. I've been with children for a very long time, and I feel the best way to be involved with anything to do with education is to start with children, because that's the basic foundation where everything starts. So with time, as the program goes on, the podcast, we're going to elevate to the tertiary stage. And well, I talked about my hobbies as well. I like drawing a lot, cartoons, which still brings children in. I feel it's encouraging to do that because that's the way you can get their attention when it comes to providing information and messages. It's a good way. I like reading and writing as well. So I have this acronym DRAW. That's draw, read, and write. DRAW. Yes. So basically that's it.
Okay, so I understand that you do, like, there's this program that you've done in the past where you have like a collage of stuff on the wall and you explain like what is on your wall and why everything is there. So if you can expand that and like what you want the audience to get from that, and what the program is called.
Okay, well, that program's called MIW. That's Ma'arouf's Interactive Wall. It's actually a show on art and creativity. I feel it's a field that needs to be explained and appreciated because art is not really seen as a major part of our society. People admire paintings and that's it, and just say this looks nice and that's it. But most artworks have meanings and they have backgrounds, they have messages that they pass. So MIW was just a way of breaking down things, and well, it helps too because of the recycling part. It helps with keeping stuff for good use. Like you see, it's a rectangular frame I have in my room, and I felt at some point there are some things I need to get rid of in the room, and rather than throw them or just burn them somewhere, some could be used and put to good use. You can recycle them, whether they're bottles, old tapes, I'm talking about videotapes, radio tapes, threads, some sheets, magazine pages, all sorts of things. You make it in a collage and try and make it pass a message or make sense, not just put them randomly that way.
Yeah.
You arrange them in a way that actually is telling a story with the pictures from one to the other, whether they're related or not. You try and connect them and put them all into one, and then you pass a message.
Yeah.
That's basically what MIW is about. It can be used as an adornment, you can use it as a project proposal, and you can actually use it also as a way of passing messages, whether it's in schools, or in an office, maybe you have a conference or a meeting and you want to explain something. Some people like practical stuff.
Yeah.
They don't want you to just come and talk. If you have something practical, they may project it better.
Yeah.
So you have to have something like that and be there to explain what it's saying. They'll grab it easier and faster than the written aspect.
Yeah.
So basically that's what MIW is about. I actually put it on pause for a while because I got busy at some point, but it's still on and it's going to kick off again in small bits to make it easier for people. Because I believe data is a problem for some people. 30 minutes online is actually quite costly, you know. So that's basically it.
Okay. Does anyone have anything to say? Fatima Abdulhamid?
No, it's just about our topic for today is education dead in Nigeria. So, what do you think? Do you think education is dead in Nigeria?
Well, actually, dead is a strong word. So maybe I'll use dormant. Maybe it's dormant and needs to be revived. So the phoenix needs to rise from the ashes. We're backward. It's not a lie. Everybody knows that, and we're facing a lot of things. A lot of things are holding education back. Unfortunately, it's the most important sector to me. It's education and health, actually. But without education, a lot of things can't work. And it's unfortunate that the attention that is being given to education is not enough, because I think the last time I checked, or better still, UNESCO, that's United Nations Educational and Scientific and Cultural Organization, the Act allocates 26% of budgets for education. And unfortunately,
that's in Nigeria specifically, or West Africa? Or
well, in general.
Okay, just
in general, yes, 26%. But the last time checked, I think that was last year, it was below 10% in Nigeria.
Actually, this year it was 6% of the whole budget.
So you can imagine
the
that.
The budget was 7.80 trillion naira, and then 6% of that budget was set for education. And so 26%, 6%, if you look at it, it's too low.
So the margin is quite much.
Considering our population as well.
Considering our population, and so it shows that the federal government of Nigeria is not willing to put enough.
Yes.
Even though every year they keep committing to, we're going to do this for the education sector, but it's all words and no action.
Yes, but committing is the main problem. Yeah. That's why we're facing what we're facing, because if education is weak or dead, like you put it, nothing is going to work. Because that's where the training starts, that's where your focus starts. Everything needs to be, it revolves around education. If you have a good foundation, you don't have to worry about the future because the foundation is good, so it continues that way. But when that is bad, people get discouraged, and at some point that's why we have a large number of dropouts and children out of school and all that, because education is not seen as a very important part of what the country should do. Our schools, as you can see, the state of our schools, our teachers are very important in the society, but you know how it is now.
So the thing is, sorry, not cut you short, but not just the country, not just the nation as a whole, for the state as well, they also have a role to play, and some of them, they are making, like, for instance, Kaduna, I think we have up to 13% for education, right? I think that's the number we have for the budget. But still, when you have the money there and you have that commitment without an actual plan, it doesn't really make any sense.
Well, there's plans, I think, in place, but it's implementation that is more.
You don't even hear about the plans, because when we talk about plans, we have to outline what are the problems, right? Right now, we have people discussing how to renovate schools.
That is
all around the state. We're just renovating different schools. You have different new buildings with the same system. That doesn't change anything. Because as long as the system is still the same, doesn't matter how new your building is. And that's what we are like in this country.
Yeah, I think it is more of a matter of internal structure. than external, because I've always had a problem with not just how we give out education, but also how we look at education. For example, now what I mean by internal structure is, if even you can basically, environment helps. Like if you have a good classroom,
conducive environment,
it helps.
learning.
But that is not the most essential aspect of education. Because, for example, this thing that we do, sometimes some of the children, we teach them outside and they still get something because the focus is there. The main problem, I think, for education in Nigeria is the structure. There's no proper structure in place. And as with everything in Nigeria, I believe that the main problem is we always commit to short-term goals that don't have any long-term effect. What we're supposed to do is we're supposed to focus on things that have long-term sustainable effects. For example, I've always been critical of this, and I always talk about it, and I'm very sure people are tired of me hearing it. For example, it is commendable. For example, I know I've spoken about this before. This feeding program. It is a very commendable step by the government. It's good to feed people that don't have food, but the whole Chinese saying of you should teach someone how to fish, not just give him fish. If he eats, he'll come back to you for help. But if you teach him, exactly. And what this this feeding program does is, it doesn't really encourage people to stay in school. What we're trying to do, we're not trying to increase the number of students falling into school. We're trying to improve our literacy rate. So if you're doing feeding program, you are definitely increasing the number. And if you look at, just like any research, it's not the how credible the research is. It's not really about your figures, the figures you derive, but your sample size as well. And it's not just because you get 10,000 people responding to your question doesn't mean that you have an accurate answer. And for this thing with school is, for example, the feeding program. If you fix the school itself and you use the feeding program as something to drive students to go, when they go, they will stay because there's something, then that is good. But if you have a feeding program, you're already wasting a large sum of the budget.
So in other words, you're saying some people may go there just for the food.
They'll go there for the food.
Just
And they won't like it. Because when you go there, the teachers are not even there. The teachers themselves, they're not qualified. So what we need to do is we need to go back and fix the structure of the school.
You mentioned structure. It's a very important part to look at, because I think a professor once talked about the education system being the same education system from 44 years ago still being taught, as in we do not change. Yes, we do not advance with the change, especially the digital world now. Crude, primitive.
But funny enough,
so it's very, very worrisome to see such happening. Still using blackboards, and the funding in schools is it's not that significant, because teachers are not seen as people who should gain and get all that. In other countries, it's not like that.
Yeah.
I think our education system rated 145th in 2016. That's in the world primary education advancement. Records. 145th is just too poor. So,
but I think for me, it's not just about just updating the curriculum. We need to update the mindset of the teachers. Because when you come down to the structure and having a good environment, it's not just the building, it's also the teachers.
Yeah.
Like for instance, when you have our summer schools, right? It's in the same condition that they were at the school and everything, but because of how we are the attitude, bring the energy we bring into for them, they respond to it better. So when you have a teacher
that is passionate,
that has that passion and that energy to bring to his classroom, like what will happen to us when we are doing our program with the kids, it's always about the energy you bring. When you're enthusiastic about what you want your kids to learn, they always respond to that. Yeah. But we don't have that. And we also don't have, we are in a system whereby we are so much concerned with the blings and the outer world, how it looks like. When you go to some universities now, we have like the division of the whole TED fund that they do.
Yes.
They bring in a lot of nice equipment, very fancy equipment, but when you go to the schools, after a few months of them being installed, they're left like that dormant. No one even wants to go and see what they do. They don't want the students to have access to those things.
Yeah.
So we have that mindset of where we have the teachers, we don't really see what they do as something worthwhile. And it's not just because of the teachers, it's because of our environment. We don't celebrate them. We don't celebrate the achievement of some of these teachers.
I think lack of passionate teachers is a problem too, because even people who actually apply for education, the rate and the ratio is very, very low, because why funding is, and that's where funding still comes in, because if a teacher is not comfortable with what he's getting and his interest is not there, I don't think he has to be looking at greener pastures, how he's going to sustain his family, how he's going to move on. So like you said, training is important, but I don't think training works for somebody who's not interested in something. So people end up in the profession, they don't go into the profession.
Yeah.
If you're passionate about art, you go to art school, you go to animation academy, you keep following that dream.
Yeah.
But for teaching, it's not like that. People who are willing and the intelligent ones who finish school do not want to teach. They are not interested in that. There was a time I asked in your IAD, there was an event, I asked people to honestly raise up their hands if they want to be teachers. In the whole room, I think I saw 5 hands, and they were laughing. It's actually true. And even a child you meet right now and ask him, would you like to be a teacher? No. He wants to be a pilot, he wants to be an engineer, he wants to be something because he feels, and even parents don't encourage that. So I think, coming back to what Abdul Hamid said, teachers need to be looked at and their standards need to be raised. They need to be seen as people who develop the society. They need to be seen as people who are very important, and anybody who wants to teach should be given that full support. Their remuneration should be increased, because you find teachers having...
This is a country where institutions cannot pay salary. So
you can...
And the funding is actually there. The funding is actually there.
Well, the motivation is not there. You have teachers being owed salaries for 4 months, and then they are still going to the classroom. Some won't go. We have strikes, all these things. I think that's what causes it. So they have to look at where they can go back to earn this money. That's where the corruption part comes, malpractices and all that. They have to find ways of getting money.
Because we've actually found evidence of that happening. Remember,
recently,
we were actually last summer school that we went, because we divided classrooms. Nabil and I, our classroom, towards the end we were like, let everyone have a conversation with the students that you are teaching.
One-on-one.
Yeah, one-on-one, and just ask them what their problems are in the school, like what are some of the challenges they face, and how do they think it can be improved. They're a bit hesitant at first to tell us, but we told them that we're
open up.
Yes, we're here to help you, and if you don't tell us, there's no way we can help you. And they started opening up, and they said, first and foremost, because the teachers themselves, Fatih and I have actually witnessed this firsthand when we went to survey the school, and the teachers were in the staff room gisting, the children were outside playing. And
during school hours.
Yes, and
the headmaster was
in his office. And I'll come back to that, because a lot of things like that happen. So basically, what I was saying about like engaging with the students, they were like, because of what you're saying about, there's no incentive, so the teachers have to fall back on other means to get, because at the end of the day, they have families and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, people are always doing things for their own interest and how they can sustain themselves. And they said that these teachers, what they do sometimes is they ask for bribe in exchange for their results, or maybe exams. For example, they'll say before you can write your exams, or before you can get your report card, buy your soap, things like that.
So it's not based on merit.
It's not based on merit. So even if they pass or they don't pass, if they want to see their report card, they have to bribe the teachers. Exactly. So you think about what you're putting in the mind of this guy, that you can't, your intelligence or who you are as a person can't carry you to the next level. You have to pay your way to the next level.
Extra.
So already it is affecting them. And then when we also, because all these things I'm talking about is like different at different points in time that we
experienced all that.
Because even when Abdulhamid and I went to do like the research in Kadori, the area, we also found out that there's a limit to how many students government school in that area in particular can accept, can enroll. Because I remember the person we were talking to said 5. Or if you have a lot of children, I think was it 3 or 5 only. From each family, that's what. So if you have 10 children,
school? So
yes.
If you have 10, only half are going to school.
Yes, because of overcrowding. So basically, but the problems are plenty, because first and foremost, there's overcrowding. So not everybody gets educated, and the ones that even get the opportunity to get educated, they don't get the level of education that they need to get.
Yes.
So when you now want to solve the problem of education in Nigeria, sometimes it is a matter of where do I even start?
Where do you begin? Yes, because overcrowded classrooms is a huge problem, because you find one teacher to 80 students or 100. Definitely, even if you have 3 teachers in that class, the main reason why you even have such a number in that classroom is because they don't have enough classrooms.
Yes.
At some point, I don't know if it was with Abdulhamid I was talking, there was a time we had some kids from primary 1 and 2. This particular group needs to go out and excuse primary 2 to come and use that same classroom. Primary 1 will be outside. Primary 2 would come and learn and go back outside again for another class to come back, because they didn't have enough classrooms. So you find children on the floor, find some at the window. That already is a distraction, and the teacher is frustrated, so you don't expect him to make sure the class is even in order. He continues to do what he's doing, he finishes and leaves, and he doesn't really care how many have learned. With the noise, with the distraction, with things happening, some people are doing other things, you don't expect everybody to learn. So, and if there's an examination going on, how do they even go about it? There will definitely be people ranging their necks, there will be people copying. So this needs to really be addressed. That's where the restructuring still comes.
So what other solutions can we look at?
Well, like providing, like Abdul Hamid said something, they don't really have to look at just the government in this. Everybody's in this, we're in this together. They have to look for ways that these things could be financed, because it's a country we're talking about. So everybody needs to be involved. Little that you can contribute.
I have some interesting figures.
Okay.
Some of the things that we've discussed are some of the things that they've proposed, but again, it is still a proposal, so we don't know if it's going to be implemented. And me, it's not like I really understand budgets like that, because that is not my field of work. But from the budget, like I check like what the government budgeted for education, and I don't know if it's education as a whole, if it's primary, tertiary, or whatever.
Or in a whole.
Yeah, but one of the most interesting things I saw is 318 million naira was budgeted for maintenance of generators. So now, maintaining generators, yeah. So my question now is like, if to say we had our power sector was good, do we really need this much money to maintain generators?
That is quite much. If you
is
put
this
that,
education?
yes, education sector, but it is
the whole
budget
for education sector this year was 448.01 billion naira. That was what they budgeted for education, which is about 6% of the whole budget of this year.
Yeah.
So if from that 448 billion naira, they're budgeting 300 and
something million
for
generators
and
only.
if the power sector was good, I mean,
so you can imagine channeling this towards
research and development,
and facing classes and upgrading, because the teachers are not that qualified.
Funny enough,
training
is very important, because we didn't talk about teachers not being computer literate and all that in this age. So you know that already is a problem, and I know even for their self-esteem, it's not that good for a teacher to be sent from a school for certain training or workshop where everybody is there with his digital machine and iPad and all that. You don't know how to use it, or you have to make a report and you don't, so these things need to be looked at, and it's never too late.
Okay, so
we have been damaged for a long time, so it has to start from now so that the posterity could benefit from it. Else, education is going to be like this for a very, very long time, because you have so many out-of-school children already.
Yeah.
And also, it's not just about their children as well, because like you mentioned, the motivation and then what needs to bring them to school is also need to be put in place, because in terms of the salary and all that, it has to be there.
Yeah.
Like some people have this idea that the only countries that have a problem with education is just like the developed countries.
Yeah, it's not true.
Because I was having a conversation with my friend the other day, and he mentioned that somewhere like the US, the only problem they have with education is the fact that some of the students are not computer literate. I told him that's not true, because they also have one of the very worst numbers in terms of education.
Yeah.
Because it's not, just because you can see that they speak English
doesn't mean they're literate.
It doesn't, because sometimes they don't even know how to read or write. So it's not just them. And when you look at the world today, you see the countries with the best education system are countries that were able to put their teachers first.
Yes.
It's not just about making sure that they get paid on time. No, it's about making sure that their payments and the salary they get is empowered with other people, with other professionals. Because you can't have like a senator making like 50 times what a teacher makes. Yeah. That doesn't make any sense.
That's outrageous.
That's all we have. What we have today.
And all that. And you know, some people actually get discouraged because of the fees and all that. Yeah. I think at section 18 of the 1999 Constitution talks about free and quality education for all. And I don't know how many schools actually do. Recently, last week, I read something on, I think, Jigawa State. Yeah. I heard that Jigawa State was, Sokoto State, was welcoming that. Yes. So
funny enough,
it's a good thing.
I'm not the biggest fan of like free education. I'll now explain why. Because let's be
feel
honest,
if it's free, it's not going to be valued that much?
No, not even value, because let's talk about, because a lot of people complain about banks. And I know that, yes, banks can do their little chua-chua. Not even little chua-chua, they do a lot of magu banks and stuff. We all know that. But I always tell people, like, all these bank charges, they need to maintain themselves. And even like products, like when we're talking about like let's say Apple products or whatever, and we know that it costs a lot. But
satisfaction.
No, not even the satisfaction. The cost of production of maybe, let's say, an iPhone might be just $70, and they're selling it at $700, and you'll be like, man, that is outrageous. But if you think about it, they have to pay taxes, they have to pay staff salaries and stuff. So by the time they do all those things, each product is supposed to cater for all those things, not just making back profit. So the same thing applies to education. If you're saying free education, where are you getting the money from? People don't really pay taxes in Nigeria like that. So where are you going to generate revenue to maintain good quality school? And this is us talking about incentivizing teachers. So if it's free education, where is the money coming from? Because if it's free education, that means governments have to generate revenue somehow, and the revenue they generate will not be enough for them to maintain their schools and pay their teachers. So to a certain level, I feel like free is just not plausible. We have to be realistic.
But for some people, for some, it's scholarships. Scholarships
is a good idea.
Scholarships come with merit. You don't expect everybody to be that good.
No, then we need to diversify how we give scholarships.
But I feel where free education comes in is there are people who cannot afford to have all their kids go to school.
Yeah.
If there is free education at some point, of course you can send them. And if the education is quality education, they're getting the best out of it, you know that they're going to reap something and you're going to benefit from it as well. For example, there are places where that's where girl child education comes into play, because in some rural areas, in a house where you have boys and girls, the sacrifice is made for boys to go to school, because they will go and learn and do something and come and help the family, and the girls are married out. So I feel free education could help in such aspect, because the girls get to go to school too. It's important. So, Saeed, to an extent, I agree with what you're saying, but free education is also important if you do it the right way.
Yeah, maybe a percentage, maybe
less country, yes.
But I think, like you mentioned earlier, there needs to be a connection between the short-term goals and the long-term goals. Because when you say free education, you're obviously trying to drive traffic to schools, like the feeding program. You want to bring as many number of kids to the school. But when you bring that children to that school, then what happens next? Because at the other end of the spectrum, you're not really doing anything to change anything, because the teachers are still seeing teachers that are going to face a large number of students. Because if today we have like a free education in Kaduna, right? So we have a free education. We have not done anything to improve, to drive people to become teachers. Of course, there was a recruitment drive, but what always with teaching profession in Nigeria is that we use it to fill the gap of unemployment, and that cannot be the status.
That's what I mentioned
earlier. You don't do that for we don't bring in increased number of senators just to remove on unemployment. Don't do that. So we can't do that with teachers as well. Yeah. We need to be sure that the teachers that are going to teach are people that can teach and are willing to teach, not just people that.
How do you even get that?
What could help there is improving their salaries. We should know that they are gaining this, they are getting this. Some private schools pay well. Yeah. There was a private school in Kano that pays 10,000 for a teacher. Private school, so you can expect, you can imagine something like that. But if a teacher earns much, I don't think his mind will wander off. Okay, this is something that I'm going to do, and I'm going to earn.
Imagine something like that, because when you see the country today, we have not just the country actually, everywhere in the world, we have the best schools to go to are the schools that are most expensive, because once you pay that amount of money, you know that the teachers are able to take care of.
Education
so
is
they do
expensive.
Even in America, when you go there, you have private schools there, you have all the uniform and all these people. Somewhere like King's College, you have places like that in America, boarding schools, and that's where you have the richest people that they send their children there because they want them to get the best education. And they believe that when they pay that amount of money, they know that everything there, from the kindergarten to the high school to the university.
Some is just packaging,
but it's not just the packaging, because even the teachers do. Look at Harvard. Harvard is not just.
Harvard
they have the highest, some of the highest untreated school fees in the world, but still, when you go to that system, when you talk with the lecturers and the professors, you know that you're in a different place entirely, and they challenge the students to do better because they're comfortable in their own skin. And it's not just that. also even the people that work in Harvard, they also look for greener pastures. You want something better, but you can't find someone there and say that I'm not comfortable with what they're paying me, because of course they pay him a lot of money to keep him comfortable. If his goal is to be comfortable in life, not to be outrageously rich. There has to be that balance that you know that you're going to be able to feed and cater to all your needs. You're not going to be the next Dangote doing it to become a teacher. So
I think ultimately, but for our education sector to improve, we need to significantly improve other sectors as well, because at the end of the day, it is more about financial security as well as just like personal security and stuff. Like in other more developed countries, we have more resources than them, and we have the opportunity to achieve so much more than other countries because they don't have access to what we have access to. But the difference between maybe being a lecturer there and here is that, for example, like some of, like when I was in university, and lecturers in Nigeria also do that. Lecturers everywhere do that, but some lecturers, their PhD, they do their PhD. They go for conferences regularly. To submit your paper to a conference, you get paid. You can get paid for writing a paper. You can get paid for presenting and publishing a paper. So there are a lot of other sources of income that reward your hard work. In Nigeria, that one doesn't exist. It doesn't exist as much as it exists. So you just do your sharp, try to get your money. But if you find other incentives, because at the end of the day, it shouldn't always be about money and like basic salary and stuff. It's about all the other benefits you can get. So even for me, I don't want us to be thinking in the lines of like just increase their salary, but provide them with other things that they need. For example, if you are paying me, personally, let's say you are paying me 150,000 naira or maybe 100,000 naira per month as my basic salary for being a teacher, but you provide me with house, and my house, I don't really, maybe you subsidize my bills and stuff like that. You've already covered a lot for me. Yes. So even if you don't pay me that much, I would have to be ungrateful to say that the salary is not enough for me. You get? Because for us, we always focus on that. Just increase the salary, increase salary. And if we're just thinking along those lines, I don't think even them like.
Yes, but that's still what you're saying is a house has been provided for you. Incentive. So maybe health services have been paid for.
Yeah.
And at some point, maybe you just have to think about few expenses. But in a situation where you have to rent the house, you have to feed your family, you have to do other things, and you're getting less than 50,000. So you can imagine how things are, and then you're being owed salary for 4 months.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how, just picture that and tell me, why wouldn't these people
and the money is there
or try and look for a way to get that money? And the money is there, and they know it. And that's why sometimes you see these things and nobody really comes to their rescue.
Yeah.
When they try to protest, people say these teachers need to go back to their classrooms, they need to consider these kids, they need to be patient.
Yeah.
But because of because of this, it discourages people who are coming up, and then they decide, okay, why should we even go to school when this is happening?
Yeah.
I think I have to find another way or another means of getting money.
Speaking of, like,
this needs to be improved. Honestly, if we don't work on this, nothing is going to change. And for years, like you said, it's there, it's written, but it hasn't been implemented.
Yeah.
Since those days, we're grown up now, it's the same thing. Our kids are coming, and then it's the same thing. So it's just going to be the same circle. You keep going round. I think this needs to be addressed.
And also, I know when it comes to education, there's just too much to talk about.
Yes, honestly, there is.
But I think it's important to mention the fact that when you go to tertiary institutions, and in terms of what you do with what you've learned in school, in terms of your livelihood, it's really not being taken into perspective. Because you see today, even like today, we have like the tech savvy people in the tech age, and everybody wants to become tech savvy and all that. People want to develop apps, people want to do all that.
Entrepreneur.
But still, what we're having is still the same issue we've had before. Like when you were told to go and become a lawyer, go and become a doctor, go and become an engineer, everybody's just looking at the pay grade at the end of the day. They believe that the engineer makes more money than a teacher, and engineer makes more money than...
Well, that's the impression that's being painted.
It's still the same. Even with the techs today, because we have a lot of tech people who are just thinking of, let me make this new app
application
become the next for the kids.
Yeah.
They're all thinking of that, but when they were making all these things, they weren't thinking in terms of how they can make money, they were thinking in terms of how they can change the world.
Yeah.
Like, when you look at the history of someone like Steve Jobs, what he was thinking about how to take technology to the next phase. He wasn't thinking about the money. Of course, there was money. He knew that.
Development
but
and the growth.
The goal wasn't about the money. It was about getting there. And you have today. You watch movies and you see all these geeks, people that they call geeks and nerds.
Yes.
You see how they watch TV, they sit in their rooms,
to
they look at cartoons and all those things. You can see all
the
the wonderful things they can do for themselves. And it's some because of the drive. The drive is not about money; it's about the passion. You have someone that can sit in his room, develop cartoons, do all these wonderful tech
things he's passionate
that
about.
They can do just because of their passion drives and that. But because today we have people that are thinking in of how I can make money. When you start thinking along those lines, it limits you.
But that's why we talked about restructuring. It all comes to that.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned.
Restructuring, because if you remember, Omodura mentioned that in the last CAD Invest Summit, our curriculum is quite old and needs to change, because it's the same way we are being taught things to just pass, not to progress, because what you read is not what you're going to apply when you're done with school. It's the same thing.
But that's everywhere.
Yes. No, but things are changed with time. What I'm telling you, the same syllabus, the same, everything is the same from those times.
I mean in Nigeria, syllabus has not improved.
Well, that's what I'm telling you.
But generally, education everywhere, they still kind of, for most institutions, still teach you to pass, not to understand.
But
you hardly find people who will tell you.
But there are levels of development where things change.
I agree.
It's the environment in the school.
It's the environment.
So it's still the same.
What I'm saying is, for example, if some customs and things, Nigerian history, part of Nigeria, can be chipped into the syllabus, like civic education and all that. They need to know. Well, it's recent, I pray it continues, because they need to know about Nigeria and things that are happening and how to go about it. They're not being taught all that. They're taught world history and other things, so they don't know much about their country. Social studies is mostly about the Nigerian flag.
Because that's another thing I wanted to discuss.
That is going to help a lot if it's chipped into the curriculum and syllabus, because they already know, and then they will be passionate about many things. I think it will change the mindset of kids who want to be politicians as well, because
there's a gap, like between private and public, and that's why I wanted to touch on briefly, because yesterday we went to Essence. We went back to Essence. We had like a reunion.
Back to your alma mater.
Yes, and I was talking to the arts teacher, and he said they've introduced some new subjects like civic education. They now do civic education, and I think they've kind of introduced a more diverse way for students to engage. And I think that is good. Like some private schools are actually way, way, way ahead of government schools. And I think one of the solutions is, and we're going to talk about solutions later.
Public schools.
Yes, but bridge the gap between private and public, because the majority of people in Nigeria actually go to public schools. It's only few people that can afford to go to private schools. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to bridge the gap. But because I know that this is just a casual conversation, and so we don't just keep talking and going over. Like I just put some questions that I wanted to ask. And I want to hear like your opinions on questions. I did my dissertation on like how you can use branding to improve community development, and I was just doing some research on education, and I found some very interesting figures. I don't know if those figures have changed or if they've improved over time, but like the percentage of out of school children that I saw was unbelievable, and like our literacy rates last time I checked, it may have improved or it may have gone down, was at 57%. And of all the out-of-school children that are in Nigeria, 90% of all those children are from the north. And of that 90%, a significant amount are northern women. You understand? So you see, you can, like, we have a lot of problems, and you can see this whole problem of Al-Majiri issues, Boko Haram, and all those things. And for the girl child education as well, since out of that 90%, even girls are more, because of early marriages, abuse, and all those things.
Customs, culture.
Yes, culture and all those things. So for me, I'm like, maybe like apart from the problem of fixing education as a whole, we have a serious issue to tackle in terms of improving education, especially in the north. And what I wanted to know is like, what is your opinion of that? Do you believe in those figures are that high, and why, and how you think those figures can be improved? Because it's actually a serious problem for you to have 90% of the total number of other school education coming from the north.
I believe those figures, it's possible because we know what we see.
Yeah.
And, things, I know that from 2011 there's been an increase in that because of the crisis and the insurgency.
Yeah.
So many schools have been destroyed.
Yep.
You can imagine teachers have lost their jobs, children are out of school. You cannot your parents can't fend for themselves, they send you out.
Yeah.
You have to go and look for a way to feed yourself.
Yes.
So many kids they indulge in all sorts of things. The violent part, they join all sorts of groups. Some even die. So because of this, feeding yourself is already a problem. So you know that looking at education or even going to school is there, and many are traumatized. People who went through this crisis and the insurgency, going back is a problem. So you find out that even in IDP camps, I know a few NGOs are trying, they go there to at least try and enlighten them and still revive that spirit of learning and sanity. Because some are traumatized and they feel they don't even want to go back to school anymore. They don't want to do this anymore. So, like for the women, what you said is actually true. I know some are being, like entrepreneurship is being encouraged a lot nowadays. It doesn't matter whether you go to school or not, so that you can at least fend for your family. If you can get a little, you can send them to school. I've seen interviews with women from IDP camps saying they now sew, they make money, they send their children to school. It's important, but like I told Abdul Hamid earlier, in a place where you have boys and girls, you sacrifice and send the boys to school at some point and then make the girls marry so that the responsibility is off the dad and then she's under somebody now because you cannot afford to take care of everybody.
Is that, and it's just a question, but is that right, or is it a matter of...
No, of course it's not right, but I'm telling you the situation. You find yourself in that situation.
So that's what's making them do.
So a lot of things, that is what is happening. A child that is out of school, he's advancing, he's growing up, and then he's not in school, and nothing is helping to guide or put his mind in a certain place. Yeah. He has to deviate, and joining a clique or meeting somebody, violent people who are going to do drugs, or you're going to be paid to do something. It's a way of getting money, and you're going to use a little effort. So you do it. That's what's causing most of these things. Yeah. We still have people whose parents can afford, but they're still dropouts. Maybe they lost interest or they've joined groups. So I believe that is the main problem that's happening. Even with the Almajiri children, there is a history behind everything that is happening. Some are being, Almajiri in general, is a student who is being taught Islamic knowledge. They have their imams, they have their malams and all that. But at some point you find things coming in. This is what you're sent for. Some are sent, the last time I checked, somewhere from Chad, somewhere from different parts of Africa. Because in Nigeria, we see them, we just feel everybody there is a Nigerian. So the rate and the ratio counts everybody. You don't even know. They don't have passports. You can't check. So you don't know if he's even a Nigerian. So the
problem is even beyond education, basically.
That's what I'm saying.
But I think for me, honestly, the number that everybody left putting that number, all people like saying that 11 million out of school to shut out from the north or less. It can be more. Honestly, it can be more. But the thing is, we look at the north and other parts of the countries, we think that we have more students out of school in the north, and then the other parts of the country are doing better. No, that's not really the case. In terms of literacy, it's low all around, because in some cases you can even find someone from the east or the west even more uneducated.
Yeah, but the numbers you can justify the numbers because we're more populated.
We have more out of
we have more people.
And remember, the Kano State governor even said something like 3 million in Kano alone.
So it's a population issue
again.
The
point is, of course we have the population issue, but what I'm talking about is quality now. I don't want to just focus on the number of people, because even if you have 10 million going to school and not get a proper education, it's the same as one not going to school.
Because it's not benefiting.
But the thing is, what we need to look at is, when you look at a typical Hausa man that lives in the rural area, whose job is just to farm or to fish, his main goal in life is not to become a millionaire. No, he wants to feed his family. That's all he needs to do. Yes. Once he's able to do that, then he's satisfied. Because when I was doing my service, I was living in a village in Aderu. When you look at the people, Kebbi State, sorry. When you look at the people there, they move a lot of money during the farming season. A lot of money is moving during that small village. Yeah. You can see someone with up to 500,000 from his account on a normal day. So you see, there's a lot of money there. They have this money, and what they think about is, let me get this money, let me feed my family. Once I'm able to make, like for instance, if he's able to get, his goal is to get 50,000. And he gets his 50,000 in his first month, and he knows that 50,000 covers the entire year. Then he doesn't go forward. He just stays there. He's comfortable with that. But you see someone from the east, because of course the Igbos in the country, they are more entrepreneurially minded than that.
Business.
You see that their vision is how I can be the next person that controls the country. That's how they think. They're thinking of how to make a lot of money. So when someone sees an opportunity where you see another that is just making this 50,000, he sees an opportunity to make 100,000 from that, and he pushes and gets more money from that. And that's how they think. They think about how they can leave the country. Because when I first visited Edo State, my uncle was telling me that here every family, they have to make sure that one person from that family leaves the country. That's
so
what they think.
They've made it a necessity for them.
It's just a must. That's like an unwritten law. One person from your family has to be outside the country. And it doesn't matter what
and what changes when he leaves.
Nothing does. It's just as long as he is outside, they feel like he succeeded. So they may have to make sure that he goes through education, he goes through at least secondary school, so that he gets some sort of scholarship or grant to leave the country. And that's the way they think. But here, we don't think like that. As long as you have, like, we've always been like that, you have a big family, they can push on to the farm. You don't need to know ABC to go to a farm.
I think
as long as you have energy and you have the ability,
and you can fend for your family.
And I think that's why we have all these problems again. Because for me, I feel like I don't think even like what's it called? University education is very important. Very important. But I think like primary education is very important.
That's why I talked about foundation. Yes. At least starting up well, so that at least you have that mindset and everything.
Because what this does for people is, if you have a primary education, right? These people that are just okay with maintaining just 50,000, if you have primary education, that can actually maybe help them to get a better understanding of, how to communicate with people, or how to make more out of what they're getting. And I think that is if that is where the focus should be, because again it helps them to get that foundation and it helps to push them forward. And I think the problem that we have is because we don't have that primary education. We don't. Most people, they're just going to Islamia and stuff like that, so they're very limited in their thinking.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So, but what do you expect if somebody is going to go to school and not really apply that? Well, I don't want to say, but I feel it's like wasted. For example, a woman who's going to go to school and even go to tertiary institution to study a certain course and then just come and be a housewife, just sit at home and then not practice what you went to do. I feel it's a waste because you're not giving back. You just went to get and you're not giving back. Of course, yes, she's educated, she can help the kids with homework and all that, but that's not enough. It can reach a level where both dad and mom are involved. Mom is taking care of some bills, dad is taking care of some. It's a family thing. But that's why at some point you see people not valuing that Western education so much. You just talked about Islamia. Maybe when she's done with primary 6, JS1, she may not even go to JS classes. She's finished primary 6. Let's try and let her get married and just go and have her own family. So you see what I'm saying? So
the thing is, it's not just about having like the woman at home and all that. It's the way we look at education, our view head and all, especially when you go to these villages as well. Let's go back to that. Because when people just see education
it's a cultural thing.
Yeah, it's deep rooted within our culture. Because what we believe is when we go to education, the best you can get from that is learn how to speak English.
And that's
from nursery 1 to
primary 6.
10 years of university, you just learn how to speak English. Because in most cases, you come out and you don't even use a degree. Because in the first place, you went to the education, you don't really know what you're doing, you don't really know what you need education for. You just know that the system tells you that you need a certificate to be able to become a millionaire. That's it. Not that you need an education to become a millionaire. No, you need a certificate to become a millionaire. And as like for a farmer now, you can go to university to improve your agriculture, but you don't know that.
Yeah.
We have synthetic seeds, and you have like how you can create a greenhouse and all that. And we are facing a farmer. We are about to enter a deep farmer in this country and in the world in general. So as long as we start thinking that, you know what, the fact that I'm able to grow onions during the rainy season is not enough. I need to have a way to grow onions the entire year.
Yeah.
And we have to rebrand education to teach people, tell people this is what you learn. Because we need more people to go there. You don't know. Like there are people that believe that education is genetically coded. So you don't know who has that brilliant idea to revolutionize the agricultural sector. So unless you tell them this is what they're about to gain, then they're not going to go there. And unless you change the universities in these communities, like
it's even the mindset
in small communities,
still brings us back to the restructuring.
And they all
things
do
need
that.
to change the manner in which things are being taught,
and our mindset as well, because
mindset needs to change too.
Yeah,
in time, advancement.
We need to just educate ourselves and tell us, and really change how things are. Like, if you have a university, a state university in a state where in the local government that are basically farmers or fishers, you don't teach computer science there. There's no need.
No, you can teach computer science, but the main focus should be
on that
culture,
if
economics,
it's not there, but you have places that you have the computer science course there is the best.
No, but
it doesn't make any sense.
No, why I think that you should still diversify is because maybe it would be hard for somebody to go across the country just because he wants to study computer science. So if you are there, you can study. But what I'm saying is that the main focus for that university should be, for example, now that's another thing when you're talking about like American universities. Why I was saying that sometimes all decoration, for example, all them Harvard, they are not the best in all the courses. You can go to a university that on the league table of universities is like maybe number 7.
No, maybe it's
better than Harvard
in Germany or something.
In a particular course, but then Harvard still teaches that course, and if you go to Harvard to study that course, doesn't mean that you don't know anything. So the main issue is that you should still be able to offer those things, but where your strongest suit is. Then, for example, if
like what Abdulhamid just said,
so you focus on that, but don't ignore the others.
No, I'm not saying ignore. But the thing is, when you go to this university, you see that the people from that community don't go to university. Go to any state university that is inside a local government or a village. Yeah. You see that the majority of people there are people from the West again going there.
That's why I'm saying change our mindset.
So unless you have the universities are being celebrated for those things that the local governments can relate to, then they can't do that. They won't go there. They won't see that anything for them.
So okay. Now because we've kind of overclocked our time by 20 minutes.
Questions?
Yeah, no. I'm just going to ask like questions. Since we've been discussing, we've been going back and forth. Like the issue of education is just beyond us.
Honestly, it's a large scope.
It's a large scope of things. But I think like for us, we have to change our mindset first of all. And I think the most important thing is to kind of find a way to make people understand that going to school is not just about learning ABC and 1, 2, 3. It's about improving your social skills. It's about improving how to interact with people, how to employ different things and use that to your advantage and to to give back to the society. So it's beyond just learning 1, 2, 3 ABC. And that's why even if you go back, we have to kind of change like how. Even like this whole, if you go to some secondary schools, the only thing class teachers will do, they'll come in, they'll dictate notes, they'll tell you read from here to here, I have tests, so we have to change all of that. So our mindset needs to change, but like just so that we don't kind of run over too much. I like every one of us kind of, since we've criticized and criticized, kind of give our opinion.
We've praised too.
Yeah, we've praised, but how we think we can improve education. So we'll start. For me personally, we'll just go around the room and then Ma'arouf, you can close everything by giving your own opinion. And for me, like we discussed earlier, personally, how I think we can improve education sector is not only focus on NGOs, because NGOs they're kind of doing a good job. Some NGOs, yes, they're doing things that are kind of redundant, but you still have to give them props for what they're doing. At least they're trying. But NGOs have to, apart from NGO, we should not only focus on us as NGOs, just go there and help. We also have to frustrate the government into doing their job, because it is their duty to fix all of these sectors. So apart from us going there and fixing it, we need to go back to the government and say, look, all these things that you're doing, you need to emphasize on, and we need to frustrate them into actually doing their job. So it's not just for us to go and say, okay, since the government doesn't want to do it, let's just go. No, as we're doing it, we go to them and look at what IAD.
So working hand in hand.
Hand in hand, yes, because what IAD has been able to achieve, we have one scholarship student that is doing very well, and all the other students in the span of like 3 weeks, we were able to kind of improve, how they write and stuff like that in the span of just 3 weeks. So it's also for us to kind of, after we do that work, go and take case studies to government and say, look, with our limited resources, we've been able to achieve this. So if you guys that have unlimited resources, you can do stuff like that. And I think, again, we need to go back to the roots of the problem, change things structurally, do some lateral approach to, how we teach, and just know that it's not one size fits all. We have to work community by community. For us to develop the best solution, it's not for us to just say, okay, this is the new
one applies to everyone.
Yeah,
okay.
We have to go to particular communities. As we're going to those communities, we have to get a good understanding of those communities and how they function, then know how to cater to them. Because if you want to go and apply how we're teaching in private schools in Abuja, and we go to Kadori and we want to use the same thing, it doesn't work, because the dynamics, even from family and the social dynamics, is not the same. So I think for us, it's about really understanding what those communities want and cater to that. So while we can develop one overall structure, the structure should be such that it is flexible to fit communities and providing solutions. So for me, basically, the short version is, number one, pressure government into doing their work, and two, just developing structures that kind of cover everything but are flexible enough to cater to specific needs of people.
So, so I think for me, there's two things that I keep saying this: teachers. Let's train our teachers. Make sure that the teachers we have are well trained. Teachers that know that for students to listen to what you say, you don't have to get that by just beating them. You know, there's ways you can be a good teacher. There are ways you can inspire your students. There are ways you can motivate your students. We need to teach these teachers. You have companies that take their staff for trainings. They give them retreats, take them to retreats, and have some even go to the extent of having psychiatric treatment for them. Like, you have a therapist in the office that comes and checks how they are doing. We need all these things for teachers. We need to make sure that our teachers feel like they are also VIP citizens. They're not just your backstop profession. Like, when everything has stopped for you, just
rebound.
Go there, it's just an afterthought.
Okay.
Also, a second thing is for us as students and as the future generation, that we start thinking of education as a solution bringer and a gap, a breach provider or something like that. In terms of, we have many problems in the world, we have many problems that are specific to Nigeria as a country. So we need to be able to think in terms of how to close those gaps and how to bring solutions to those problems. So when you go to the university to study engineering, or you want to become a doctor, don't just think about, I want to finish studying engineering so that I can work in an NPC. I want to become a doctor so that I can own a hospital and make a lot of money. No, think of you're coming from a small local government. Think of problems peculiar to that place and think of how to solve them. Because once you're in university thinking in those terms, it guides your action. It guides where you're thinking and where you're going. And unless we start teaching our younger ones, we start mentoring them, telling them that, you know what, when you're going to university, think along those lines. Don't just think about how you make money. Because in terms of making money, you can never know. Like, a person that studies veterinary medicine can become the next millionaire in Nigeria. You never know that. A person that studies social studies can become the next billionaire. You don't know that. So unless we start thinking about how we can build solutions to our problems, then we're not going to develop the education. And then also for the government also to start seeing the potential in our universities.
Okay.
The universities are doing a lot of wonderful research. When you go to some of the departments, you see that they're doing a lot of research. We need to engage them. We need to take in those services, like countries in US. You go to all these nice technology schools. The way they develop their universities is by getting grants. NMPC does not have to go abroad to get someone to come and bring solutions to their problems. No. If you have a problem with your process, go to a university in Nigeria to develop that process for you. So as long as we do not challenge these people and we raise the bar for them to get us these solutions, they're not really going to change and they're not going to improve. So we need to look inwards in terms of bringing solutions and improving the country and the world in general. We're not really going.
I think Saeed and Abdul Hamid have said everything.
You've summarized everything.
Especially the government. We can't keep saying, oh, the government cannot do this, so we should do this. No, you put us in this situation, so you have to fix it. Yeah. There is no way. You can't say, oh, you came into power and you inherited. Yes, then fix it. Yeah. So the government has to do their own part.
They have to be involved.
Largely because we have more people going to public schools than private. Private schools sprung up as a result of the failure in the public schools. So you have to fix it. And then about the mindset, we have to imbibe it when primary school teachers are teaching the kids, you have to tell them that, oh, you can be whatever you want to be. You inspire them so that they grow up and then they have that mindset of, oh, yes, I can be whatever I want to be. You can tell them, oh, you come from Kadore. Let's say Kadore farming is the catch. You tell them, oh, you can be the best farmer, you can do this, you can revolutionize agriculture in your community.
Yes.
And then you have people giving back to their community, and that's how you grow as a nation. So I think, education is a major problem, and 30 minutes is too small to talk about education and the solution, the rot of education in Nigeria and the solution. So,
but the good part is that we've touched many aspects that are very significant, and honestly, this discussion, even I learned a lot, because of course you can't always know everything, but we have touched areas that are vital and need to be addressed. But what I am going to say in my own contribution is, I think we need to be more creative. I think the creative part of one's brain for many people is there, but it's not active. So that's why we keep having this backwardness we're talking about, and same monotonous way of doing things. If we can try to think differently and do the same thing, we can achieve what we want to achieve. For example, the teaching, especially the basic education from elementary, nursery and all that. You have to try and do things a different way. You can't keep doing the same thing all the time. It doesn't apply to every child. You have to bring in new ways of doing things in an enjoyable way with activities, because that's what we did in the Kids Must Read program, and kids really loved it, because I'm learning how to spell, I'm learning how to read, but it's an activity. I'm running, I'm jumping over things, all that. It actually helped us as well. It's going to help a lot. And then all these display boards help. A child knows that he's doing well. My work is on the board. I'm good. So I'll be encouraged, because we're talking about public. Let's forget the private schools. Public schools, you enter the classrooms, they're so bare, they're blank, there's nothing there. So the kids don't see what they're doing. But when you have a bulletin board there, I know I'm doing well, my work is there, everybody will try so that his work can be up.
Absolutely.
Yes, you can encourage, and like I said, he mentioned teacher training. Let's train teachers. They should know how to go about. Every teacher is responsible for his classroom. So the way you're going to teach must not be somebody else's way. You can try and implement your own ways, just so things work and the kids like it. That way, when it's enjoyable, school will be fun, and I believe that education is going to rise to another level.
Yeah, just to add to what you said, I've actually seen research. I can't remember what research specifically. It actually showed how reward actually helps improve people's capacity to learn and to engage. Because they did this, I think, research where they did research where even the children that did not pass, they told them they passed, and it actually motivated them more to do better. The next time they actually worked harder and they got better results. The children that were told they failed, it just broke their morale, and that was downhill for them. So even how we offer advice to children and how we is very important. Is very important. So there's a huge this conversation can't finish in 1 hour.
Yes, there could be a sequel.
Yeah, but just to kind of conclude, it was nice having you here for the first official episode.
I enjoyed every bit of it. Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much.
And hopefully we'll be able to have some discussion at some point in the future. And again, thank you very much for attending. Thank you, Fatima and Abdulhamid and Ma'arouf again. And so we'll see you guys next episode. Thank you.